What could you do to show more grace? As somebody who has received incalculable grace in my life, this is something I'm constantly challenged with. Instead of fighting for my perspective, what I know to be just and fair that I'm due, what can I do to extend forgiveness and humility and an extra measure of grace to other people? The amazing thing about being a more public figure, about being an author and business leader, is I have tremendous opportunity to show grace to other people. And I'm continually challenged to decide, when is it that you extend grace and when is it that you hold fast to a policy or a rule or a precedent. And so that's what I wanted to talk with you about in this training, this video, this audio. First of all, know that God is a God of justice. One of my favorite verses talks about unequal weights and unequal scales is an abomination to the Lord. That's in Proverbs. And it says it 3 or 4 times in Proverbs. The idea of unequal weights. In other words, one person gets this, but somebody else gets this. That idea of not treating people the same way, not dealing fairly with people, especially when you think about unequal weights, means that you're purposely cheating somebody. So there is something about God's character and what he teaches us to be just. Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O man, what is good, what the Lord requires of you. To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. So to do justly means to uphold standards. So for example, in our company, we have policies about refunds and cancellations, policies with contracts. We hold fast to the things that are true. We hold people to the policy because without the policy, we would have no company. But are there opportunities for there to be grace, for us to say, the policy says this, but because of unforeseen circumstances, because of just honestly, just the call of the Holy Spirit in our lives, we feel like it's okay in this particular situation to go a little bit above and beyond and to show an extra measure of grace. And the thing is, it happens all the time. It's not grace if you do it all the time, right? It's your policy if you do it all the time. But there are opportunities for grace. So when is it that you decide to give grace? And when is it that you decide to hold fast to your policies? I just want to share with you some of the wisdom I've picked up over the years, now that we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary of Hope Writers. So one of them is you consider the end in mind. Consider what is best for the person that you're dealing with. So for example, I know that working with writers, a lot of them get fearful. They get scared of their own words and the impact of their words and what their family might think. And so for them, to do them grace is actually to hold them to what they agreed to. They sign a book contract with us, we hold them to that book contract. It would not be gracious to let them out of that book contract. Instead, it would be gracious to offer them even more support. Now, that might sound counterintuitive, but you have to trust the wisdom of the way that the Lord has called you to good works, that called you to do your excellent work. And when you know that it's better for your people to hold to the policy and give extra grace in terms of extended payments or additional support. For us, we have writing coaches that we can bring in and help our authors. But grace in those situations isn't necessarily giving a refund or a cancellation. However, there are opportunities where someone, let me just be a little vague in the details, but true in the feeling, over the last 10 years, I have been called all sorts of names for not giving refunds or holding to a policy or what have you. Sometimes I'm sure it's justified. Often it doesn't feel like it is. But there are opportunities to show grace through gracious speech. Gracious speech. There's a verse that talks about how the gracious speech is like apples of gold in settings of silver. In other words, like it is delicious, it's beautiful, it's well curated, it's hospitable to show grace. And especially when there's situations in email. I don't know about you, but that's when I find that the graciousness goes out the window, is when it comes to the words that we type on the screen. For some reason, the same kind of words are not reciprocated when it comes to hopping on a Zoom call or even a phone call. But there's something about email that can lack graciousness. So what I've learned to do is, if we're lacking graciousness, hey, let's hop on a call. I'd love to talk with you about it. Even if I wouldn't love to talk with somebody about it, I need to talk with somebody about it. Getting on the phone, ideally the Zoom call, looking somebody in the eyes and remembering that they're a child of God, that they're a mother, that they're a daughter, that they're a sister, that they're a friend, that they're probably a spouse, and trying to see them as Christ would, and realizing that 99% of the time, it actually has nothing to do with you. It's something else that they're going through, and asking the Lord, open the eyes of my heart to see what this person is going through. And then with discernment, Lord, give me the discernment. How gracious do I need to be in this situation? Grace overflowing. But what does overflowing grace mean? Does it mean holding to a policy? Does it mean giving a refund? Does it mean leaning in and sharing prophetic words? That has happened. That has happened for sure. That I feel the Lord's calling me to say, just call him on it and say, you know what? I see this as a pattern, and this might hurt, but I need you to know this. And sometimes that grace means knowing when to walk away and saying, you know what? I know the Lord is at work and doing something in your life, but unfortunately our time together needs to end. And so with all that being said, here's what I've learned. Number one, see the person for a person. Number two, seek the Lord for wisdom, because when you seek, you will find. The Lord will give you wisdom. When you don't know what to say, ask the Holy Spirit for what to say. And then finally, number three, when in doubt, grace it out. Can you give more grace? Can you give more grace in situations, especially when you don't feel like it? I hope this encourages you. You have a message that matters, and the world is looking to you to share your words of hope and your words of grace.